Marshall Faulk. He needs to be hired by Coach Prime and our Colorado Buffaloes, and he would be a tremendous hire. I'm going to get into the reasons why I want him here in Boulder so bad here in just a moment, but want to say hello to everybody. Hope you're having a wonderful Friday. Be sure to like and subscribe if you haven't. Shout out to Guru Film Room. If you guys are in need of film room, check that out in the description. But let's go ahead and dive into this, guys. I know that this was reported on probably Sunday ish, I think. Brian Howell dropped a little report saying that Marshall Faulk, Hall of Fame running back, is a finalist for the running back position coach role at Colorado now that Coach Flea is no longer with the team. Best of luck to Coach Flea, but we need some new blood in the running back room. We need to switch up that energy a little bit, right, guys? And I love it. I love it not only because of who Marshall Faulk is, but I think that he can add some unique things to this program, to the staff, and all of that. So let's go ahead and get into it. What's up, Jones23? Hope you're doing well. But guys, yes, Marshall Faulk's a Hall of Famer. Yes, he was an all-purpose back, well-rounded back. He was just as good as a receiver as he was a runner. He was part of some of the most dynamic and legendary offenses that you'll ever see in the NFL. I think he played at San Diego State until all of his rushing records were broken by Ronnie Hillman, if I remember correctly. Rest in peace, Ronnie Hillman. But Marshall Faulk, a good friend of Coach Prime. They both worked together on the NFL Network for a really long time, obviously very knowledgeable, still in touch with the game, right? And this is what we're forgetting, is that you cannot go away from the run when Marshall Faulk is your freaking running backs coach, right? Right? You can't do that. Now I know the jokes. Oh man, is he just going to come here to watch us pass the ball? Well, we know that we're going to be running the ball a lot more this year. We don't have a top 5 pick at quarterback this year. No. But the Caden Salter Heisman agenda is starting, as early as this offseason. It's starting, baby. And I think you might see some film rooms on him coming up really soon. But one of my issues with Coach Flea, again, this is not anything that I've ever heard told to me or anything like that. This is purely me just trying to make sense of what we have seen on the field over the last 2 years, is that, I really do wonder, how adamant Coach Flea was about getting his running backs in a rhythm and getting them more touches. And somebody like Marshall Faulk brings presence and power into this room. And he brings a demand, I would say, a demand of making sure that you're running the freaking football. I think that also explains why we have not seen any running backs transfer out of this program this offseason, which was a little surprising. Excuse me. My nose is itching. This was a little bit surprising. I thought Dallan Hayden was going to hit the portal. He's still here. Isaiah Augustave, I think our best running back this year. He'll be returning. Micah Welch, promising freshman year, returning. Brandon Hood, might we see him get a nice look this next year as a redshirt freshman? Yeah. We got an interesting group of running backs that I don't think none of them have touched their potential. I do hope that maybe in the spring period this year, we can bring in kind of one more running back, maybe with a little bit more juice and wiggle. But let's see how Marshall Faulk can coach these guys up. I mean, if he comes onto staff, if he is hired, I mean, he has no initial coaching experience. But again, this is how I feel about it. I think he'd be tremendous in recruiting. I think he'd be tremendous in helping the offense. And guys, again, I don't think we could have, our running back coaching I know this is harsh words, but I don't think it could get any worse than what it was the past 2 years. Now, a lot of people want to blame Shador and Daddy Ball and all that. All that stuff is just overblown. I don't think that, again, some of the position coaching stuff, I will blame that on Flea of them not running the ball enough. You're not even demanding that the offense is being run through your guys enough. Somebody like Marshall Faulk is gonna take no bullshit like that. And I think that's huge to having a well-rounded, balanced offense that can play smash mouth, but, he's also been part of the greatest show on turf, baby. So he's, been around a lot, and he's been a part of various offenses that have all had success, and I think, hey, with Kane Salter at the helm this year, we're gonna be running a lot more zone read. We're gonna be just, I think, a lot more run heavy. Now, we'll still pass the ball. You know, don't get confused, but we'll see that run pass ratio and efficiency all raise this year. But I think the biggest thing that he would bring is a presence and a demand, kind of similar like to Warren Sapp in a sense. Bringing a guy with a gold jacket. Now, I think Warren Sapp maybe had done some other coaching, um, like just kind of on the side, and I think Marshall Faulk has been here. Recently kind of working with the running backs just as like a guest or whatever. But I don't think Warren Sapp had professional coaching experience, and Marshall Faulk would be in the same boat. But if he has a desire to work with college athletes, this is a tremendous opportunity, and we would have 3 gold jackets on the roster, on the coaching roster, and I think that he would, you know, uh, unless you're one of these big time college football blue bloods, the top 7, the top 10 that just have just an insane amount or level of spending that's just different from the rest of college football. We have to continue to zig when others zag, so to speak, and making hires like this do make a difference. I don't think Christian Hudson's here without Warren Sapp. Like, I don't. So, yeah, and I think, like, Jaheim Otis, like, yes, um, I would imagine that we made him a very nice offer in which he's being compensated very, very nice, but I think Warren Sapp still had a lot to do with this. Damian Lewis, like, those guys had a lot to do with him coming out here. Number 1 defensive tackle in the portal this year. So, that's what we need. We need somebody who's going to demand the ball for his guys, and I would imagine that Marshall Faulk is gonna be one of those guys as well. So, I I love it, and I know that we haven't heard much this week, outside of, Coach Mac's funeral, again, memorial service, rest in peace to Coach Mac, but man, I hope we get an update here soon with now that the Cowboys stuff has died down. We knew all what that was all about, and let's get this contract done, Rick George, and see Prime making more money than Dan Lanning, baby, and let's announce these hires. Who's working more on the offensive line? Who is working with the running backs? What's this role, hopefully, for Matt McChesney going to be like? We'll just have to see. Let me see. Eric Moore saying, "Do you see a power struggle between Pat Shurmur and Marshall Faulk happening?" No. No. I think Pat Shurmur's pretty easy to get along with. No, I have no concern over that, and I would be a huge fan over it, with him doing that. Again, uh, Warren Sapp came in here working with Damian Lewis and working for Robert Livingston, and Prime has the culture. Seems like he's set in place to where there was no kind of issues there in terms of the chain of command, and I would expect that to be the same if Marshall Faulk comes on here. I think he'd be a tremendous addition. Again, no hard feelings, or like personally for Coach Flea. He did have brain surgery. We've talked about that before. He did move it back to coach, with Prime this year, as Jonathan is saying, but it was, prayers for his recovery. But regardless of what was happening, just based on the results on the field, we needed to go in a different direction. And if we can pivot to somebody like Marshall Faulk, I mean, why not? Again, I don't think it could get any worse. Than kind of what we've seen. And I just want to see the backs more involved. Again, I don't think Flea demanded for his guys to get the ball as much as they should have. So Any offensive coordinator is stubborn. Any offensive coordinator has their blind spots and all this stuff. I think Pat Shurmur did a great job this year. He was competent. He was competent, and we averaged, in the 30s for points per game. But what I'm learning, after doing this college football stuff and creating or connecting with more creators is that pretty much every fan base scapegoats their OC when they're not winning or not winning enough. OC is just a tough position to be in, but you're always going to be overanalyzed. But yeah, but I think Coach Shurmur makes. I think he might be making a better college coordinator than NFL head coach, so to speak. So, but it also helps when you're not coaching Drew Lock and post, knee tearing up Teddy Bridgewater. So, yeah, but Coach Teams was legit. Remember when he had his quarterback returning punts? It was exciting to watch. Yeah, he had those guys playing real tough, and I'm just really glad that he got to meet Coach Prime, spend a little bit of time with him and all of that. But it was really cool because pretty interesting. Usually when guys coach a team to a national championship, that's kind of like what their, main threat in life was. But CU was kind of more of a side quest for Coach Mack because of all the stuff that he did with his his ministry with Promise Keepers ministry and all that stuff, his preaching, all of his work he would do with that. Just a man filled with faith, and it's very rare. Like he had a totally other career that I think you could argue was even more successful than what he did with the Buffs. Just an impressive human being. Again, may he rest in peace. We've had Brandon McCartney on the show, I think a couple times, his grandson. And, I just hope everything is going well for him and his extended family members. Jonathan Smith coming in here saying, Matt McChesney confirmed today on his podcast that Faulk is a lock. Well, how about that? I think, again, it would just be so much fun. And I'm about having fun. I want to see how it works out. Of course, I want to win, but I also want to be entertained. That would be really cool. Like seeing Marshall Faulk in the well-off stuff, just like Warren Sapp and whatnot. And I think, again, you're going to see guys developed here. Again, I just think that's because with that sort of experience, and if he wants to do it, I think that he can teach these guys more than just a thing or two. I want to see CU running back go over 100 yards rushing in a game 2 years, and I'm still waiting just for that. Well, let me tell you, don't give a damn. The Broncos have had an even longer streak. It might be going close to 3 seasons, I think, without a running back reaching 100 yards. It's crazy. Locke wasn't it, but Shurmur didn't help him grow at all. Again, Locke's the same guy with multiple coordinators. I don't really think you can put that on him, but I'm happy he's doing good at CU, but I still don't trust him without an elite quarterback. And again, I guess Pat Shurmur's just got that name where people just want to meme him and stuff like that. But again, Pat Shurmur, when he's coached at competent organizations, the offense has been more successful. I think that he can only do so much. Do anyone know the running back coaches at OSU or ASU? I know Judkins and Scadaboo. Hey, and how about Travion Henderson, who I think was even better than Judkins this year? It's about talent and opportunity, folks. Fans will blame Robinson and Coach Faulk next season. I mean, what are the fans' expectations for the running game going to be? I guess that's my question. I think for me, I just want to see more involvement. And if we see the same thing again this year for some reason, I'm going to hold Marshall Faulk accountable for that. But again, I just don't see things repeating that same way, bringing him in the room with the presence that he commands. And, also just with the change at quarterback, Caden Salter's going to run this thing. Remember in 2023, he had, I think, right around 1,000 rushing yards, on the year. Really, really impressive. And, I would imagine that Ohio State coaches, for the most part, are staying with Ohio State. But, maybe ASU, that's something to look at as well. Scadaboo, He was tremendous over the last couple of years. He was that guy at San Jose State. He was that guy at JUCO as well. But he's continued to get better under the coaching staff of Kenny Dillingham. So maybe that's something to look at too. I'm open to that. Yes, it's about talent, but again, like you, I've always had questions about Coach Flea's running back rotations, what he has asked particular running backs to do versus others. I I think it was better this past year, but I don't think he helped any of these running backs get in a rhythm with the limited carries that they were going to get. Again, I just think that room needed some new energy coming in there, and Marshall Faulk, if we make that hire, that is so welcomed. And I approach this thing like a startup, really. This whole thing is done differently than most conventional college football staffs and coaches, programs, all of that. And that's how I just approach this, with a curious mindset, seeing how things can go. But yeah, like Marshall Faulk coming in there saying, you know what, give one of my running backs 15 carries. I love it. And this is what Kelvin Adams is saying. You can't you can't cure people or heal people from just blindness, if they got no vision. But I think Faulk can teach these guys to stop running into the line, right? Or stop dancing in the backfield, all this sorts of stuff that we would just see time and time again. And maybe Marshall Faulk wouldn't have his lightest back there always pass protecting for some reason. Yeah, I saw this too. The Ohio State defensive coordinator is, Penn State's spending money this year. I thought that they, I got some news that they made a substantial offer to Carnell Tate, and now he's back at OSU. I guess the bag man came through, but man, that is college football. Yeah. KB82, has Shurmur ever done anything? His offense has always been mediocre. He's never even had a top 10 offense in the NFL in forever. Again, there's a lot of things to keep in again, he was mainly coaching bad teams. And I think when you saw him coach at a competent franchise in Minnesota, I think those offenses were really, really good. You saw Sam Bradford have some of the best years of his career. You saw, of course, Case Keenum ended up swindling us, but again, with the New York Giants, that whole thing was a dumpster fire. And honestly, I think all of them would take a Pat Shurmur offense back over these last couple years than what they've had. But again, the Broncos were just a terrible situation. Drew Lock didn't match anything that he wanted to do. And I think he ended up being a really good fit with Shilo Sanders. So again, I just feel like he's a great fit right now for college. Maybe you would want somebody a little bit more innovative. But again, KB, you just can't make excuses. Andy Reid has Patrick Mahomes, and now people talk about Andy Reid being the most, possibly being the greatest coach of all time, over Bill Belichick. Once he got this quarterback, Andy Reid was terrible at managing the game clock in tight situations with Alex Smith in previously. It couldn't win the big game, all this stuff. But again, this is my issue, is that people just want to make excuses to further, prove their point. Oh, well, AP was in Minnesota, so let's just take away everything that Pat Shurmur was doing. Like, come on, dude. He's had good years, but again, I'm not on here saying that he's an elite offensive mind. Like, I'm saying that he's a good coordinator. Like, he's a good coordinator, and he didn't lose Colorado any of these games, in my opinion. But yeah, you're the one making excuses, man. You're the one making excuses. He had an MVP on his team, dude. Well, hey, he extracted the most out of that. Nah, I'm not talking about bad teams. I'm talking about just coaching for bad organizations. The Broncos had no ownership. The New York Giants have been a mess. Giants fans will tell you about that. Where else has he been? He was a damn good coach in Philly. People didn't want Donovan McNabb there at all, but they seemed to get some great years out of him. Again, I just think this is so hilarious with Pat Shurmur. You're either trash or you're elite. He's right there in the middle, and that is what we needed after seeing Sean Lewis. But yeah, I mean, Coaches always look better when they have Hall of Fame talent. You saw Bill Belichick, how he looked once Tom Brady left. That's just how it is. You saw what the Saints looked like after Drew Brees and Sean Payton, right? Right? Sean Payton with Jameis and who are the other guys he was running out there? It just did not look as good, even though I'm a Jameis Winston fan. Yeah, it just wasn't the same thing. So it's a both and thing. But to be honest, KB82, I just wish NFL fans would shut the hell up about Pat Shurmur. To be honest, I get so sick of just hearing people just say, "Oh man, he sucks. He blows. Man, I hate this guy." Oh, what has Pat Shurmur ever done to upset so many people? It's not like he ever set a franchise on fire. It's not like he ruined a quarterback. I don't think he's ever ruined a quarterback. And I think that when you've seen him coach real talent, because Drew Lock was total ass. And as you've seen, nobody was fixing his bad habits. You've seen him continue to look like that same rookie quarterback, even this year playing for the New York Giants with Brian Daboll. Some guys just suck. Some guys just truly suck. But when he's had decent talent at the quarterback position, you've had good offenses that have been successful. Again, he had multiple years in Minnesota where I felt like he was a successful offensive play caller. So are you a Pat fan now? Weren't you dissing him months ago? I was dissing him about a year ago. Come on, MJ, where have you been? Make up your mind, buddy. Yeah, but the more if you guys go back, I said, who's going to want to come and play for Pat Shurmur here, right? I sounded like those guys that I'm just, so annoyed with. But then the more I thought about it, this offense just really needed competency. We needed somebody that was a grown up in the room, somebody who wasn't just going to tell guys to run a bunch of option routes deep every single play, right? A guy that would bring accountability to this offense. Sean Lewis ran a horrible program. And I thought he would see more success this year at San Diego State, but it was also a dumpster fire again. So maybe he just was never the offensive mind that I thought, but nonetheless, he wasn't a great fit here. But when Pat Shurmur came on, I was just like, man, I don't know. Because again, most of his offenses have been kind of meh, but he's also, when he's had good talent, he's had good offensive years. Those might have just been a handful, but he has shown promise. So I think around like the springtime is when I really started to get on board and kind of seeing the vision that Prime had. With Pat Shurmur being offensive coordinator here. And I just felt like there was a good rapport between him and Shador. So when you're looking at the game similarly, that's always very helpful. And it was very clear that Shador and Sean Lewis did not. And so, yeah, MJ, there have been things that I've criticized Pat Shurmur for this year, no doubt about it. But it's been a long time since I said that I didn't want him here at at CU. It's been quite a while. But yeah, total fair weather fan though. Dude, what's up? What's up? First round potential. Pat Shurmur has a Heisman winner on his resume for all you clowns. I know that must be hard for some people to understand, man. Like MJ, we'll just have to see. Man, there's some people in a bad mood here on a Friday evening. You guys are just being all negative. I love you, KB82, but for some reason, man, like I feel like half the time you come in here, it's always saying something about Pat Shurmur. Like, what's up with that? But anyways, that's why Parcells is the best coach ever. He can turn a dumpster fire into a playoff team. Parcells is a very good coach, and his coaching tree is probably the top one, right? Them and the Shanahan coaching tree right now. I mean, Bill Parcells' coaching tree just goes on and on and on. Big fan of Bill Parcells. Big fan of Mike Shanahan. All of that. I like Pat. I'm questioning your loyalty. Well, loyalty? What the hell is that supposed to mean? You can't change your opinion over time. Go look at some of my takes like a year ago, MJ. Go look at some of my takes 3 months ago. Yeah, I change my mind all the time, man. Like, where have you been? Where have you been? But yeah, if you're gonna question my loyalty, go right ahead, man. I don't need your validation to validate my loyalty to a university in which I have a degree from. So, yeah, I mean, you guys are so weird sometimes, man, but smash that like button, man. Um, well, yeah, Parcells is so good. You know, with squad with the Cowboys. Now, I will say, again, I'm going to defend Bill Parcells here because that is with Jerry Jones. That's with a meddling owner. That's with a guy who is trading for players like T.O. without Bill Parcells' consent and saying or sign off and just saying, coach these guys. It was a dysfunctional relationship. Bill Parcells deserved better, but I think, man, he probably got the most out of those Cowboys teams despite the toxicity that stems from Jerry Jones. I mean, that's how I feel about it. And yeah, Bill Parcells, one of the best football minds, one of the best coaches of all time, man. And I think that his looking back, especially now, I think his success with the Cowboys should not be questioned. Yeah, positive vibes always in Dave's stream, man. Yeah, people are a little bit people are just a little, like, upset. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, I went to see you, MJ. I mean, it seems like you haven't tuned in a while. I don't know where you've been. Yeah, that's why my channel's name is David Talks Buffs, not David Talks Prime. But we'll have to see. Big Coach Prime fan, though. Lady C speaks. He says, "We are in for a winning season." Absolutely. Now, somebody did ask me in one of my chats, Dave, what do you think this team does this year right now? Well, I think I'll become more optimistic as the spring goes on. We got to see like how this offensive line shakes out, right? I do think like worst case scenario, this team is still bowl eligible, no doubt about it. I predicted us to go 8-4 this year. We exceeded that, obviously. Um, but I think like right now, again, I just kind of want to see us fill in some of the depth uh, issues that we have right now, halfway through kind of adding guys in the portal. So I'd say like right now, probably 7-5. But again, I think we'll add more talent. And um, yeah, I could see us having hopefully uh, another really, really good year, even with some of the transition. But let's say we don't win 9 games this year. It's a lot to overcome, man. When you lose Travis, when you lose Shador, you lose like a handful of starters on defense. We're losing a lot of leadership. Um, but things can change quickly in college football. Like, that. And I think, there is something to, without Shador and Travis here, you might see us kind of commit to a little bit more complementary football, just a little bit easier. And of course, hiring somebody like Marshall Faulk would help reinforce that. And maybe that helps make up the ground, so to speak, the gap. But yeah, I think we're in for a winning season. No doubt about it. I think Caden Salter's a really good quarterback. And I can't wait to see what he does this year. Now, if he truly does have a Heisman finalist type of season, right? Hey, I would say that we're probably in Big 12 contention again at minimum. So we'll just have to see. But if we can get like a substantial running game this year, if we can have Coach Falk coaching here in Boulder, I think that that's going to do tremendous things for the offense. Did I play ball at CU? Yeah. Yeah. Go look me up, man. Go look me up. Dude, no one's won anything with the Cowboys since Jimmy Johnson. Yeah. And again, the fact that Mike McCarthy was able to get what he got out of the Cowboys over the last few years, I think is a tremendous job, man. I really do think it is because, again, you're dealing with Jerry Jones. And you've seen that guys like Pete Carroll would rather go to the Las Vegas Raiders, who haven't won a playoff game in like over 20 years or close to 20 years. No interest in the Cowboys. You saw that the Cowboys, they were getting no interest for any of the top guys. And again, now they're going to just have a NPC at head coach being Brian Schottenheimer, and that's what Jerry Jones wants. Yeah, we're losing a lot again. Obviously, this team's going to still have very high expectations as they should, but if they don't reach them, again, I kind of see this as a transition year. But we'll have to see. This is Coach Prime's most important year, and I think we will have success. I think it's going to be another great year. I think we'll see other guys drafted. I'm expecting to see development with our young players as we saw this year as well. So, man, I can't wait. Man, who did Pat Shurmur have at quarterback with the Broncos? Exactly, dude. Just a bunch of dudes that couldn't read defenses. Now, Simply Jen's Kitchen saying Colorado will go 10-2 because Caden ignore run plays. What? Because Caden will ignore run plays and will spread the ball amongst all the receivers. Well, I could see that happening in terms of just having a more balanced offense, but I think he will run plays. Maybe that's what you meant to say because, yeah, I mean, he runs the ball and he throws it deep. Well, he does a lot of that. Runs the ball, throws it deep. It's a fun brand of football. Do you see big changes coming to the transfer portal? People coming and leaving? I have no idea. I think the amount of guys that we retained throughout December was fantastic. It's going to be interesting to see kind of what happens after this moving forward with the spring portal probably going away, which I like. I like just kind of having one period. It's weird having like 2 free agencies in the off season, right? It's just kind of weird. But to be honest, I got no idea. I imagine some guys will jump in the portal after they kind of see where they're at on like the depth chart and stuff like that. Maybe they're not as involved as they want certain areas, but again, we haven't. I don't think fully filled out this roster. I think that we're pretty thin at DB outside of our starters right now, or corner rather. I think we're a little bit more defined at safety. I think we got some great players there. Of course, some guys coming in here that I think are gonna start here, which I think will be great. Defensive line, I think, is shaping up to look nice. Linebacker kind of looking thin right now outside of the kind of two, 3 guys that we're expecting to get playing time. Offensive line, I feel better about it, but I still don't know like what the plan at right tackle is going to be. If Jordan Seaton's going down, if he ever goes down, do we have a swing tackle on the team? I got no idea. How's the development with some of those younger guys that we brought in last year that could play guard or maybe some tackle? We'll have to see. I think that's what I'm more interested in. According to Colin at Life in Football, Matt McChesney, we already have Faulk. It's a lock. I love to hear that. And I hope we give him a press conference. Dang, there was no Facebook the last time the Raiders won a playoff game. There was no Facebook the last time we won a bowl game. Man, how about that? Well, I'm not in my own house right now, so that's why, I'm trying to be a little bit more quiet. As you can see, I'm not home. So, just trying to be a respectful guest. Yeah, I agree. So NCAA's got to get rid of the spring portal. It's too chaotic. If I'm a Cowboys player or fan, I would be pissed off. You sell us on the possibility of Coach Prime and then tell us Brian Schottenheimer is the head coach. Make it make sense. I don't know, man. Like, it's just Jerry Jones. That's how I make sense of it, man. But honestly, man, with the profile that the Cowboys have, they should be able to get some of the top coaching talent in the NFL. They should have been in on Ben Johnson or Pete Carroll is interested. I mean, Pete Carroll is interested in the Bears. Liam Cohen, like the Jags. They even fired their GM to make sure that he came to Jacksonville. Jerry Jones just isn't willing to do those things. But yeah, it would have been a terrible fit. There's some fun things to talk about it, right? Some fun things to dream about it. I did that kind of what if video, trying to take a positive spin on it, on what Deion could bring to the Dallas Cowboys. But if you remember that, what Coach Prime could bring to the Dallas Cowboys, but if you remember it, it was kind of set all that up by saying Jerry Jones needs to be willing to change a little bit. And, that just doesn't happen usually. People are pretty set in their ways by the time you're Jerry Jones's age. Why did Shilo have such a huge drop off this year? He was never a high round guy, but could have been a late round special teams slash rotational safety. Now he looks like a practice squad guy. I don't know if he had a huge drop off. He was, I think, tied for our. I think he had, well, in 2023, I think he was tied for leading the team in tackles. We also had no defensive line to stop any of those guys. So he was just getting a lot more action, and teams didn't have to throw the ball as much. I think this year you've kind of seen, our safeties kind of taken advantage of in pass coverage at certain points. And yeah, that was because I think we were a little bit more competent at stopping the run this year. Teams had to throw against us. And I just don't know. It's kind of strange, man. Sons of Deion Sanders, like all of them, just never seem to have that top end speed that, Coach Prime has himself, right? We'll see what happens with Shilo right now. I think he's more of a UDFA guy. We'll have to see. But I'm rooting for him to get drafted. We'll have to see how it all plays out. And hopefully he makes a good impression at the Shrine Bowl. Maybe some of those injuries affected him. But if he comes out and has a really strong week at the Shrine Bowl that's now kicking off, that could do wonders for his draft stock. By no means at this point in January is anybody's stock locked. Yeah, telling a billionaire to change up how he runs his team will never happen. That man is the most toxic in sports. I know. I feel bad for Cowboys fans, man. Yeah, exactly. He broke his arm. Most people won't return from that. Yeah, yeah. Again, tough as nails. I think Shiloh, man, he great guy, funny. I think he's a true competitor. I like the style that he plays with and the tenacity that he has. But um, yeah, like we're just gonna have to see kind of how he all does it. But in this pre-draft process, but I think again he was just kind of taking advantage in some pass coverage, but. I mean, I'm not a professional. Surely, man, he's still got enough time in his young life to still improve. But this is also something that's going against him in terms of being drafted, is that he's already a 25-year-old safety. Oh yeah, man, Colton Hood, he's going to be fantastic this year. I'm so glad that we got Preston Hodge returning. DJ McKinney, I think that's a really, really good solid 3. Now, where we've had some issues is if we get hurt kind of past those guys, who are the next guys up? I think right now it's some of those true freshmen that we brought in last year. So, or redshirt freshmen. I haven't seen them play, so I have no idea what they can do. What other coach positions need to be filled? Matt M confirmed more coaches coming in. I think position wise, it's just running back, like the head running back coach, the head offensive line coach. I think defense, and granted, there's no limit now, Jonathan, on who or like how many assistant coaches you can have. So maybe they're looking to bring on some more assistants as well. But I think at minimum, we got those 2 assistants. Kelvin Adams says, "CU will be much better than last year." Pat Shurmur were like oil, and you think so? You think they're like oil and water? Salter will run the stuff, the offensive stuff Pat wants. I will say I don't see Salter having the same autonomy in the offense that Shador had, and could that lead to a more balanced offense? I think very much so. I think that's a fantastic point. KBA2, James Dolan is also a terrible owner. They're finally doing good again. And I think that's because they hired the guy that the former president of CAA, right? he kind of relinquished some power, right? And now you've seen, man, the Knicks are competitive. Even if they don't win a championship, they're just a really fun team to watch. They're a great brand. They're a great product right now. And I think that again, you can't always measure success by just championships. The Knicks are doing fantastic right now, especially from where they've been at, the 10, 15, 20 years prior to Tom Thibodeau and, all those guys coming in there. Big fan of Tibbs, but I know he's got his weak areas as a coach. He just doesn't run rotations past like 7 dudes. But I'm glad to see the Knicks up. And yeah, hiring that guy from CAA. Why am I forgetting his name? But he's made all the difference. Dude, yeah, it's crazy. The Commanders, it just shows you what leadership at the top can do. First year with new ownership, making the NFC Championship game with a rookie quarterback. All right, guys, going to wrap this up. KB82, thank you so much for your time. And everybody in the chat, it's okay if you disagree with me on Pat Shurmur. I understand that I'm in the minority, I feel like most people don't like him. But anyways, hopefully Micah Welch will get more playing time. They went away from him. He was good at the goal line. Yes, I think like right now, the guys that I would just want to see with the most carries are Micah Welch and Isaiah Augustave. Maybe Dallan Hayden has a bounce back. Again, it's tough with those high ankle sprains. You don't really get the explosion back in the season a lot of the time. And maybe Brandon Hood just kind of comes out of nowhere, kind of like Taj McCoy did this past year, after a redshirt year. So, yeah. Anyways, guys, thank you so much for your time. Hope you guys are having a wonderful Friday. Again, this thing's going to be fun. And hopefully we get some like real news to talk about here really soon. I'm sick of speculating. I want to get on and actually talk about it, guys. So appreciate you guys so much. Have a wonderful evening. Let's go Buffs.